This is the Stitch Up podcast, is it? Cheers. Thanks for that. Helen, it was so embarrassing. Okay, and this story haunted me. So, you know, like, we was in a bubble, weren't we? COVID secure bubble. This is like the first time we'd been out of the house in months. Most of us put on a little like COVID weight, didn't we? Right? So hadn't had a lot of my sports kit on in a while, in a few months. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, put a sports bra on, didn't fit. It did not fit me anymore, and I got stuck in it just a little bit, right? And then in that moment of panic, in your mind, it's panic, like, oh my God, I don't know anyone to ask for help. Like, I don't know Zoey well enough yet to be like, something really bad's happened. So I had a pair of nail scissors, right? No. So I cut myself out of it, like cut, managed to get out.
Oh no.
Not down the front, just some little cuts got out. Anyway, it turned into a bit of a, you know, as you can imagine, a bit of a story where everyone liked to take the mick out of me.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. This week it's just me, Helen, and it's our final show before we have a little bit of a Christmas break. We'll still be over on our Patreon for our subscribers and we'll upload this full audio there. I am so buzzing to have two amazing women from the world of women's football with me today. If anyone's been keeping up with the latest women's football documentary, The Ultimate Goal, then they will know who coaches Zoey and Bex are. If you haven't watched it yet, why are you listening to my shitty podcast? Press stop, get the hell over to BT Sport, borrow your parents' code like I did, sneak into their account and play catch up. So we have with us the two Ultimate Goal coaches. I'll let them introduce themselves. Over to you guys.
So I'm Zoey. I'm Bex's wingman. I was Bex's wingman on this journey. I'm currently coaching up at a men's club near me. I've been in the women's game a long time, and yeah, I'm just full of information and banter.
Hi everyone, my name's Rebecca Sawiuk. Was on the Ultimate Goal show with Zoey. Helen's invited us on today to talk as a pair, so I'm super excited about that opportunity just to spend the next hour with both of you and to do something like this with you, Zoe. I just can't wait for it. At the moment, I'm a full-time lecturer at the University of Hertfordshire, teaching, you know, sports coaching to students, and my coaching roles at the moment is I'm head coach of the English University programme for women's football, and I work at Watford Boys Academy in the youth development phase.
Amazing. So two incredibly experienced coaches. Everyone does want to know about what it was like at the Ultimate Goal, yada yada yada, but I feel like everybody needs to get to know you guys a little bit better first of all, because it was all Eni Aluko, it was all Brown Finnis. I need to put a spotlight on you guys, so I brought along a trusty friend, which is a game I always use. It's called Did We Just Become Best Friends? And
Awesome.
I wouldn't recommend taking it on a date with you because it just looks weird, and that one didn't work out, but it's okay. I moved on. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick some cards at random from this pack. Promise it's at random. I am going to ask each of you a question. So I'll start with Zoey. Okay.
Yeah, start with the banter.
Zoey, how would you rate your own sense of humour out of 10?
10.
Basie's going 0 at the below me. So 10. Are you 100% on 10?
My sense of humour? Absolutely. 10.
Bex, how would you rate Zoe's sense of humour out of 10?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a bit of a lack of awareness there from Zoey, but look, I'm happy to support her and build her up confidence-wise, so let's go with 10.
You can do it! You can do it!
Put the ball away, Bex. Put the ball away, Bex.
No, to be fair, look, Zoey, you know, having spent 2 weeks intense with you and kind of being thrown together, we'd never met, you know, going into that experience, which is crazy when you think about it. I kind of come out with a best friend for life. So I think in terms of personality, there's not much more I can say in terms of the justification for the 10 out of 10, mate.
Oh, that is so nice. Bex, over to you. My question is for you. What is your spirit animal?
It's a brilliant question. I can see maybe why you didn't get a second date, though, with some of these questions coming out of the deck, mate. Spirit animal. Okay, I'm going to have to go with an owl.
Right, why?
Because I just love the whole idea of like wisdom and deep thoughts, and kind of what an owl represents. And it's just like, no, can we actually scrap this? That's such a hard one.
What are you
I was
saying?
going to say, can you turn your head all the way around?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think maybe I should say owl.
Right, what's your spirit animal, Bex?
So help me out here. What do you think my spirit animal is?
I say a bit of a swan because you are quite calm, aren't you? But underneath you're working really hard. So that would be you, like a little bit of a swan.
Right,
Yeah.
I love it. We'll take swan.
Swan.
We'll take swan.
Let's
I'm keeping the
definitely
owl bit.
take swan after the first answer I gave you. Let's definitely go with swan.
Right, Zoe, over to you. I've just drawn this from the pile, but it might be a bit too sensitive in the world of football. What was your most hated job ever?
Oh, it was recent, right? So I run my own business and I work in schools, teaching like kids early development sports. And during lockdown, obviously schools were shut, so I had to find another job. So I won't mention the firm, I worked for a delivery company. And oh my God, it was the worst job
ever. Did it rhyme
ever.
with Parmesan?
Nope, it rhymes with something else. But anyway, so I turns up at this distribution centre and I've got a big van. Turns up, my first day, what area are you working in? I said, I come from Gloucester. Right, we're giving you Ashton. Don't even know Ashton. So, I'm going to give you a few parcels today. Okay, no problem. Wheels out this pallet the size of a shed with 130 parcels on. And it literally took me probably from 9 in the morning when you pack your van out in the rain on this forecourt till 9 at night to get rid of these parcels. Yeah, I lasted that job probably about a week maximum, then didn't go back.
You lasted a week.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, never again am I delivering a parcel.
And there we go, guys. So that's Bex.
There you
This is the sort of answer that I want. If that's all right, if you could, if you could work on giving me an
Contribute
answer
anytime, Bex. It'd be great.
concise, to the point. Do you know what I mean? What's your sense of humour? 10. What's your worst job? Delivering parcels. Do you know what I mean? Okay, over to you, Bex. What is the one thing that you wish you were really good at, but you really suck at? Putting on sports bras.
Yeah, well, besides the obvious, something that I always wish I could do, and I'm very envious because my brother's really talented at it, is, do you know, like sing and have that music instrument? Do you know, on my dad's side, he was in a band, he was a bit of a singer. My brother got all of those genes. So I got kind of the sports genes, and he got, you know, the artist, he can sing, he does the drums, he does the guitar and stuff like that. So I always think that kind of talent, you know, draws you in. So I would love to be able to carry a tune, but
do you know what the joy with that is? With instruments, you can always pick it up in later life. So now's your opportunity.
Yeah.
Grasp it. I want a recital. February, I'm giving you a few months. Come back on the show. Play as a jingle.
with my own song, yeah?
Yeah, I want a solo song on an instrument. So he's like, don't do it,
Oh
don't
my
do
God.
it.
I can help you with some lyrics. Easy.
Did we just become best friends? And I think we did, guys. I think we did. You're like, no, we did not. Get away from me, random lady. So off-piste, final question that's not to do with Are We Best Friends? So, Bex, what would be your childhood club?
Look, Cambridge United has got a special place in my heart, but I'm Leeds United diehard, like absolutely diehard. Like this year, you know, I bought, you know, I've got a strip, my mum's got a strip, I bought my niece a strip, I put all of our ages on it. I bought my mum, you can buy parts of the stadium and stones and have it engraved. We've got our own
Ellen Road
slab down at Ellen Road. Yeah, super diehard Leeds United fans, both me and mum. So I cannot quite put into words last season. You know, it was so emotional. We were like crying and celebrating. We must have had 5 bottles of champagne when we got promoted. So diehard Leeds United fan for me.
I mean, this season must be amazing for you because it's like so far so good, right?
Yeah. El Loco, what can you say? He's just come in, worked his magic, Bielsa ball. I feel so lucky that Radzi managed to bring him to the club. And every single game is just a joy to watch. You know, like the football, the pace. You know, we might lose some, but you're never not entertained by what Bielsa's doing there.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, as I feel an affiliation to Leeds because, like, as a Newcastle fan, massive club, like one city club with tons and tons of fans, it's just never quite, like in recent years anyway, it's just never quite happened, and it just feels so, I feel like so happy for you. But also my brother-in-law is a Leeds fan, so I'm just trying to keep faith with the in-laws, do you know what I mean? I love you, Leeds.
Passionate people, us Leeds fans.
Love it. Zoe, what about you?
So I'm a big red, a big Manchester red. So we're a bit. We were just talking about how great it is to be a Leeds fan right now. I'm not thinking like that at the minute. So we've come from the background of a DNA of winning and being successful, and now I struggle to understand like why we're playing like we play when we've got the players that we've got. So yeah.
However,
I'm still going to be.
Unlike Bex and I, you have one of, if not the best women's team in the country right now, and like a team that they're clearly now putting money into, and they seem like they're really backing it now. And Casey Stoney's like a living legend. So on that side of things, do you feel like the pride in? It's difficult to express because for all three of us, I'm assuming growing up as massive fans of like one men's club, it's hard to affiliate yourself to a brand new women's team that just popped up in 2018. But do you feel that pride as a Man United fan for how well your women's team is doing?
It's a tricky question, that, because do I feel the pride right now? Yes. I'm still like frustrated that it taken so long for them to get a women's team. If you look at United's history and look at their RTCs and their development centres, they always had girls playing football from early ages, and it took, I don't know if it was planned this way, but it took so long for them to get a women's team. But I am happy that, you know, it's there now and it's up and running and it's successful.
I feel like your fans are like really connecting with it, like on a massive level. So as an example, like the Kristen Press and Tobin Heath jerseys were the biggest selling jersey in the Man United store. Like I feel like the fans of Man United are really connecting to like the women's team, and that they're seeing that. And also they've obviously got this crazy like supporters group that, you know, follow them around the country when COVID's not happening, obviously. I lived in the past quite a lot as a women's football fan, so I would go like, like they were like the last club in the Premier League to introduce the women's team, like, but actually I need to get over it now. Like they're doing the right thing now, and there's no point in dwelling on, you know, 2017, 16, 15, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think that's why it probably took me a little bit of time just to take on board that United got a women's team and back them all the way kind of thing. But I do probably think it's always been in the pipeline, and I think it was just about timing. When I think deeply into it, it's probably just about timing.
Everybody's here to hear about The Ultimate Goal. Zoe and Bex were the head coaches of the recent TV show, The Ultimate Goal. For anyone that's not seen the show, what I'm going to quickly do, I've stolen this from BT, so I know that it's legit. I'm going to give you a quick insight into what the show's about. So BT Sport and Insight TV are searching for the next female football superstar. They're looking across Europe to find a team, and they will give you a chance to live and train as a professional footballer. You will develop your skills with world-class coaches. That's you two, by the way. Just kidding. And also it will be led by Enya Luco and Rachel Brown-Phillips at the home of England football, St. George's Park. Oh my God. At the end of the process, You'll dig deep, play an 11-a-side match against a top-class opposition in front of dozens of scouts from all over the world. So that kind of covers what they were looking for.
Yeah, I think I'm just reflecting on, the start and where it started for me going into that environment. And I think I got a call just a couple of weeks before we were due to shoot to see if I'd be interested in it by, from Ish, who was one of the producers working on the show. And we kind of discussed it. And after a couple of weeks, she called me back with a few days until start, and we kind of agreed to kind of start on this journey and me to go and be the coach there. And I remember just that period of talking about it, and it was, you always get that moment like, shall I do this? Because this is me going on TV. Things are going to be recorded. Everyone's going to see it. The eyes of the many are going to be on the eyes of the few. And it's quite daunting. And I remember speaking to someone who I really trusted, and they just said to me, well, what do you actually have to lose at this point? What do you have to lose? And, after really thinking it over, that there wasn't a whole lot to lose. And that was the kind of fire in the belly that I needed to accept the opportunity. And I have absolutely no regrets to saying yes. Overall, it's certainly been one of the most positive experiences of my life. But I remember being nervous. Zoe and I have spoken about this a little bit. We were very out of our comfort zone. We've worked at many different clubs. We've been coaching for 15, 16 years, loads and loads of experience. But this made me nervous. Going to St. George's Park, we had these renowned role models in Ennie and Rach, who were going to be the people who we look up to now. They've done so much for the game as players and figureheads, and getting to kind of call them colleagues. You're going to be filmed, well, pretty much the whole time because it's a documentary, and we have this huge responsibility to that group of 30 women who are there to improve, develop, have a positive learning experience. And our job, despite the fact we're nervous, is to put them all at ease. Yeah. So it was super challenging. And it was certainly something that took me out of my comfort zone. But I guess what stood out the most for me was just, on day one, it was very tight energy in that environment. There was a lot of eagerness to do well, anticipation, like, what is this going to be like? What have we all signed up to here? How are we going to work together? What's the dynamic going to be between the players and the staff and the crew? And, after day one, I think everybody just slowly begun to settle, like a big sigh of relief, that actually what we were all contributing to there was going to be really powerful and meaningful for everyone involved.
For me, on the outside as like a viewer, I couldn't believe the level of confidence. I don't know if that's just the way it was portrayed as a viewer. I'm like a really confident person. Like, I'd walk into a job interview and be like, hi. I can't imagine how nerve-wracking it must have been to like turn up to St. George's Park, the home of English football. It's like synonymous with like the Lionesses and the men's England team, turning up as a player. They were just all like, hey, how are you doing? And I was like, my God. Was that, Zoe, from your side, was that how it appeared, or is that just how it was kind of caught on camera?
I think on the first day when we met, I think the energy that you're seeing is all nervous energy. Right. And I think as that day and that night went on, you started to see some people's energy levels were different. Some people were more reserved. Some of the girls just couldn't wait to, get into the sauna or the steam, and the swanning through St. George's Park in the towels and and swimming costumes. And they literally were doing that, weren't they, mate? And you had some people who were just like playing pool or on the phone to the parents or the friends. So the energy levels were so different, and that was like a bit of an eye-opener to see how all these girls have been come together, and you're going to get a quick snippet ready for the next day of trying to understand them as a person and trying to get to know them as a person, and the groups, sort of like the little cluster groups from the off, and how them groups sort of like developed and transformed into one big group at the end. it was an interesting first like 24 hours. It's very interesting.
It came across to me, like watching it, it felt like this is a show that like spanned over months because of how quickly like people develop relationships and stuff, and how quickly people develop their skills and like them as players. You talked there briefly about day one of training. I was literally jaw on the floor when a car rocks up and the door opens and like Zoe's favourite fucking team, Rio Ferdinand, steps out of this car. Like, from your perspective, for you two, did you know that he was going to be there? Like, were you told like Rio Ferdinand's coming? Number two, like, how do you adapt your training around like one of the world's best centre backs rocking up? Like, what were you thinking?
So I think I'll just jump in when you need to, Bex. But I think that morning, and you see it on like the first episode, we planned the session, didn't we? We planned the session. So it's me and Bex in the foyer writing up our boards because we'd been up the night before planning the session for the following day and how many players we've got and who we're working with and what's doing what kind of job. So we've got this board here with all the players' names down, all the session, and the camera comes zooming in on us, and we were like, that's the first time really like the camera had come in on us, wasn't it? So we were like, oh shit, it's really happening. So then we're going through the session, and then the producer was like, yeah, brilliant, absolutely brilliant, that's absolutely spot on. And we were like, oh, brilliant. And then cut. Yeah, we're not doing that now, we're doing something else. And we were like, what? Yes, we knew that Rio was coming. We got told, when the celebrities were coming and what time they were coming, just so we could, be ready for that kind of thing. But yeah, it was. I don't know. How did you feel, Bex?
I think the biggest thing that I think is important for people to understand is coaching in context is very different to coaching for the TV. So as Zoey said, we with the best will in the world, your detailed planning. If we then go out on the pitch, we're in full control of that plan as a coach. Whereas for the TV, your gaffer, if you like, is the producers. So at the drop of the hat, if they want something changed, or they want certain language, or they want a certain person to say a certain coaching point, or whatever it might be, the reality is that they've got that storyboard in their mind. They've got that creative idea that they're trying to bring to life through the camera lens. So it did take, I'd say, Zoe, at least 3 or 4 days for us to get acclimatized to what it was like coaching for TV.
So they might stop you and say, can you just say, guys, that was really good? Or like they might make you say something like that. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so, you guys might see a little bit of it in the last episode for the game, but you might get, just as an example, you might get something like, Bex, I think we've got 5 minutes left of the game. Can you just shout last 5 minutes? Like as a coach, you're going, right, last 5 minutes, come on! So, there's a little bit of that, but I wouldn't go as far as to say there was a lack of authenticity, because I think as far as the master coaches were concerned, I guess Zoe and I's kind of job centered around that. We were tasked with really some of the time we had to plan for them, depending if that's what they wanted. They might say, look, I want to focus on defending. Can you guys come up with X, Y, Z? Fine. Yeah. So Zoe and I had to plan for people, or plan with people in mind, or move schedules around to make sure that was fine. Or, you had some people with really good amount of coaching experience, confidence and detail. And the ones that stand out to me as inspirational, life-changing experiences for me as a coach was, number one, seeing Farrah Williams and the detail she went into in centre midfield. But secondly, Freddie Ljungberg, turning up with a session plan, turning up, inviting me and Zoe into an office, like a meeting office beforehand, going through minute by minute what the points were. He was so professional, and his whole delivery style with the women was life-changing for me. Someone that big, that accomplished, that calm, that clear, and the girls responded so well to Freddie. It was unbelievable.
And then you've kind of already answered my question, because you've highlighted Farrah Williams and Freddie Ljungberg, but during the series, legends of the game joined you for your sessions, and that included Farrah Williams, Rio Ferdinand, Faye White, Freddie Ljungberg, Jens Lehmann, Jill Scott, Peter Crouch, Robin van Persie. So that's nuts. Like, even listing those players, that's so nuts. So who was your favorite player from a fan perspective of like, oh my God, what the heck? And who was your favorite player to work with? But I think you've kind of already answered that question. Zoe, I'll go to you first.
Favourite player most excited to see and hear was Farrah, because just like Beck said, the amount of experience she's got at club level, international level, speaks volumes, and her as a person, you know, listening to some of the parts of her life story was quite inspirational. And then watching her deliver a session with so much fine detail. And, you know, as coaches, we love to pick up stuff, and I can definitely say I came away and picked up quite a lot from that. So I remember when we was walking back, Bex, you said, come on, let's make like voice notes on this session, because it was that detailed that we didn't want to forget it. We wanted to, you know, address it like later on and listen to it. So yeah, from the fan perspective, definitely Farrah. Exciting to see and deliver Freddie Ljungberg. I think what really did it for me was after the session was done and it was delivered, he asked for our advice back about his coaching and his coaching style.
Wow.
And I was a bit shell-shocked at first. I think I was like, is this a serious question? But he was actually really serious. He wanted our feedback. And I thought that was a really nice touch for him to get us involved in that kind of way, because he was saying, look, I'm still learning, you know, I'm still on my coaching journey. How do you think I delivered it to the girls? And I was like, oh my God.
I think in terms of like women's players at that level, the Jill Scotts of this world and the Farrah Williams of this world, and then the men who are at a similar level as well and at the same level in their game, I think the one thing that's, I think, really inspirational about women's footballers is they're so relatable. Like, they have lived the same existence pretty much as you and I for most of their careers. Like, they don't live in these massive mansions. You saw it through COVID, I think, is a prime example. If you go on Instagram, you saw like Jamie Vardy in his own gym, like, oh, COVID's so hard, I want to get back to football. It's like, you're in your own gym, mate. I can see a tennis court in the background. And then on the flip side, you know, one of the world's best players, Lucy Bronze, is in a little back garden doing keepy ups. And it's like, you can relate to that. Like, you can relate to that struggle. The same way Farrah Williams, I think is on the money in terms of like somebody that is inspirational because of where she's come from and what she's overcome to get to this point. I think that's what makes women's footballers so relatable. I'm like so glad you had top women's footballers talking to the lasses. Do you know what I mean, Bex?
Yeah, absolutely. And something Zoe and I discussed about mentioning on here is, you know, there was a really lovely example in the second week. So my brother's a big Arsenal fan, so I wanted to go and get an Arsenal top for Freddie to sign for him. So we rushed off to Sports Direct. We had a 20-minute window, didn't we, Zoe? And a team had...
you nearly killed us in the car, you're driving.
Oh yeah, I got us there and back in 10, didn't I? That went back. So we rushed into Sports Direct, and we were getting some mini footballs as well. So
like Lightning McQueen.
We were getting some mini footballs, so the players, a team that had won, could get their ball signed if they wanted to by people. And we were picking them up, and we were going, how many balls do we need? We've got... we've got Freddie Ljungberg coming in. We've got another guy's name, didn't we? And then we went, and then we've got Jill Scott, and the Sports Direct lady. I think her name was Abby, weren't it? She said, Jill Scott. Young. Jill Scott. Jill Scott's going to be not Freddie. Jill Scott. And anyway,
Jill Scott who plays football. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, and we was like, you know, bless her, she gave us store discount, and we were going to get a ball signed for her, weren't we? And we went back down back to the session start, and we told Rach about it. So we told Rach Brown-Finnis, and Rach went, have you got a number? Give her a call, get her down. And we were like, well, anyway, we didn't have her number, did we? So we go back up to Sports Direct, and Abby, if you can get if your shift's anytime
Couple of hours, that.
anytime soon or whatever, then Rach has invited you down to, the set. You can come and watch training. You can meet Jill after. And bless her, she came down, she stayed, in the background. She got to meet all the players. She had some photos done with Jill and photos done with Rach. And she just loved it, didn't she, Zoe? It was amazing.
I know that. So as an example, I live in Manchester, and I was in town once, and it's no disrespect, I'm not going to name him actually, but I saw a very mega famous Manchester City player, and we just launched a women's podcast for the World Cup, and it was like and it was like really like taking off, like we were working with the BBC and stuff, and it was nuts. And so it was like, can you follow our, just typical being a bit cheeky sort of thing. And he was quite dismissive, but like, I got it. I'm like, you're mega famous, I get it, whatever. And then on the flip side, like, I've met Georgia Stanway twice, and she goes, "You're right, Helen," when she sees me at Manchester City, you know what I mean? I go in the Northern Quarter, and I was going to get a coffee, and I didn't realise I'd walked into the Manchester City Coffee Club, that they all have their like weekly coffee catch up. And I was like, and then I just played it cool. I didn't even look, because I was like, I don't want to look like a knob. And they were like, "Hey, we know you. Like, hi, how are you doing?" I was like, "Hey." And they were so nice. And Jill Scott's the nicest footballer you will ever meet. And she was there, and she was like, "You're right, pet." And like, she's from Sunderland, and that's me saying that. Do you know what I mean? I'm being nice about a matter. This is, but yeah, I think it's a different level. They've got a different level of pressure, and I get it. So it's no disrespect to the men, but for the 30 lasses, like training alongside and meeting those players, I think like the relatability of the women, they're just like me, but they're like playing in a Lioness's shirt, do you know what I mean?
For some of the girls, especially when Farah came down, and her name being the only one on the Monday at St George's Park, and they was all looking at it for like days before and talking about it, and then actually her coming down was like massive to the girls. Some of them just couldn't get over that she was actually there and she's actually on the wall. It was really cool.
You guys have mentioned it a couple of times, and I do want to talk about it, and it's the sort of mentoring aspect of being a coach. So the series, as everyone already knows, follows like a load of young women. Some have had really difficult patches in their life, and some had were on the verge of like breaking into the top tier of women's football. It just hadn't quite happened for them. I just want to know what it was like off the field from a mentoring perspective and a support perspective. What was it like working with those young players that had these sort of difficult patches?
So in the normal world of football, you'll go to training, and then you'll go home, so you get respite. You're not in each other's pockets the whole time. So I think I've been guilty of players are players. Of course they're people, but I think for me personally in my career, especially between the ages of 24 and kind of 26, it was very football, technical, tactical, and player. I didn't really think a huge amount about the person as much as I should have been. Who are they? What's their family like? What's their background? What motivates them? What's the biggest challenges in their life? And I think what the beauty of this show is it's highlighted that, yes, people are footballers, but they are people first. Yeah. And I think when you're at St George's Park and it was like a residential, so you're eating together, you're in each other's pockets every day, meals, routines, and we were up at 6 or 7, weren't we? And we're going to bed at 11 or 12 every night. It was a super intense period, and we really got to know these women and their stories, whether that was challenges that parents had passed away, or parents at the time were ill, or Ruth's daily routines and where she needed a little bit of additional support, or if a female athlete at the time had gone onto camera and done this huge interview and had like an emotional reaction to questions, or had opened up about something super sensitive, and then me and Zoe were like, "Come on, let's go on pitch." we needed to be aware of
Yeah.
everything that had kind of happened. You know, I wanted to just touch on Mish here. So Mish was the second sports psychologist that we had in, and she had an unbelievable CV, both academically and with her sports psychology work with the England senior team. And she said something that's really stayed with me. She was like, you know, these women here who are part of this process don't have any dissimilar challenges or any dissimilar experiences that the women at the highest level of performance sport haven't happened. So it really opened my eyes, and that's why I say this experience completely changed me, because if I'm fortunate enough to ever go into a management role again, or a head coach role in the championship, or whatever that might be, my whole approach to getting to know and putting the person first will help them on their football journey. And I think perhaps, you know, guiltedly in the past, I probably had got that continuum. It wasn't balanced in how I looked and approached football. I don't know how you felt, Zoe, about your experiences and that side of it.
Yeah, I think coming from the football background that I come from, and especially over the last 6 years of my coaching journey, and the mentors I've had along the way, I mean, I've still got some fantastic mentors who are friends for life. I've always had it where I want to know the person before the player. That's a massive part of why me and Bex worked so well, because we was different kind of coaches. We wanted the same thing, we wanted to achieve the same thing, but when you look at the tools in our box, we made a complete set. So as soon as we got to SGP, I was already looking at what people do when they're not around other people, or how they're communicating, or if there was somebody quiet over in the corner, or if he was going out on the pitch. You know, you've got one person who's got headphones on and they're just getting in the zone, one person who's real chatty because, you know, that's just the way they get over the nerves kind of thing. I'd already started assessing the people just so I could start to understand them a bit more. And I think that's why, like, me and Bex would regularly on an evening when we had a slight bit of downtime, I'm talking slight, we'd go and sit in the foyer bit. And it became like an open chat room, didn't it? We would sit in the foyer and we would have a cup of tea, and you can guarantee somebody would come over to us. And like, the girls just found that so comforting. And we had like Ruth that came numerous of times, didn't we? And she was obviously days where she was really struggling, and there were regular times where we would take her just outside of St George's Park and just go and walk around. Sometimes it was like 12 at night on one time, wasn't it? And it was tanking it down with rain. And we walked around the outside and we give her, you know, some advice to go back to her room, because we're not qualified to give all of the counselling advice. Misha gave us lots of info, didn't she? And I think, you know, we got her through some really, really dark hours, didn't we? You know, and that was it wasn't just Ruth, it was other players who had different kind of emotions or different kind of struggles. Emotionally for us, you know, I came away there were nights where I was like just mentally drained, and it wasn't through coaching, it was because all of these girls have got so much going on, and you have to try. And crew were fantastic, Rach was fantastic, you know, the commuters and Annie was fantastic, but they came to us quite regular because we was hands-on all the time. We was coaching them day in, day out. We was on the WhatsApp groups. So, yeah, I've learnt a lot. You
mentioned about like
definitely.
players popping earphones in, or some players like, you know, being extroverted in their moments of fear or anxiety. And I think that's a really interesting point to make. It's about understanding, I guess, that like everybody has their own way of reacting to fear and anxiety. And it's not always just going to be, I'm going to run away and like hide in the corner. For some people, it's about like physically escaping, putting some earphones in and putting their head down. For some people, it's about becoming extroverted, like overly loud. Seems obscure that when you're really fearful and anxious and embarrassed that you would become louder. But for some people, that's how it is. And it must have been really challenging navigating 30 human beings who are going through this really heightened process, and like trying to understand, oh, that's just her doing her version of fear, or that's just her version of anxiety. Like, that must have been really difficult and challenging, right, Bex?
Yeah, I think it comes back to you reflect on, you know, your whole coaching journey and the experiences you've had. part of it is managing difference. Part of it is when we're observing, like watching it is one thing, but actually noticing and having the ability to process what you're observing. So if it's somebody, okay, I'll give you an example. Somebody might have, brought us, I don't know, a cup of tea or some donuts or something. And then when you're thinking about that kind of act, it's, well, why are they doing that? Why do they feel the need to do that? But actually, when you dig a little deeper, it's often linked to things like a lack of self-confidence in themselves.
Yeah.
So you can't make quick judgments is certainly another thing that I took from that situation. We can't make quick decisions in our mind and have gut reactions to things. We have to really try and understand an individual player's behaviour. I guess another example of that was we had a player on the show called Ellie Bohannon.
Yeah.
And Ellie, I actually have coached Ellie before when she was 13 at Stoke and when she was 15 at Stoke. So I'd worked with her before. So it was really nice to have a reunion with her because she was my captain at English unis. And when she come in, and I remember her coming across to me and Zoey really early on, maybe the first 3 or 4 days, and she sat opposite us and she just went, I've fallen out of love with football. I've fallen out of love with it.
Yeah.
I want to get back in, but she was lost. And, for somebody who is such an amazing footballer, super talented and a real leader, she leads by example, perhaps not the most social person in giving detailed instructions and shouting on the pitch, but certainly leads by example. And for her, it was trying to work out in those moments of downtime, what did she need? How could we help her fall back in love with the game? I think one session I spent 20 minutes running around behind her just to shadow her, just so I knew exactly where she was at every single moment, no matter where the ball was, and really helped her to find the club she's at the moment, which no doubt will be revealed in episode 6 of. I don't want to give that one away at all, but I'm really pleased for her.
Yeah, again, without giving too much away, like, Sue as a person is one of the most loveliest people I've met. I've met lots of people, and she is so bubbly, so energetic, so encouraging to other people. And just to hear, I only heard like a snippet of her journey over that space of time we was at St. George's Park, and the struggle she's had to continue playing football because she provides a lot of help to her family. Sue sort of like touched me, and then when we heard her story, that played on my mind for like days and days and days. And the first night when we heard her story, I struggled during the night, and I woke up and I was thinking, how can we help this girl out? Why is this girl going through such a time like this? We're in 2020, for God's sake. And that I really struggle with that, and that's why I think I reached out to Sue on the last day when I was leaving, just to say, like, and again, I'm not giving too much away. I apologised for what she had to go through, just as another human being. She shouldn't have to go through that. Sue for me is one of those kind of stories, and I hope that after this episode is aired, that she gets some support. And she's a fantastic player. I mean, she came in as midfield player. We changed her around. We put a centre back. We put a full back. We put her everywhere, and she just adapted so well to every position. She just took it on the chin, and she's a really, really. I think she's technically quite good a footballer. She reads the game really well, and she's, we pretty much made her into a solid full back, didn't we, by the end of the show?
Just before we move on, I just wanted to say, like, I know Zoey and I have spoken a bit about this privately, but just think that, players like Anton Ferdinand and Rene Hector, and now Sue Manning, finding their voice and being brave enough to speak up about racism in football, it is certainly an inspirational for me, and certainly I'm sure everyone on this podcast is completely with them 100%. In our ambition to tackle it within the game.
Sorry, I think as well, we was super fortunate on that day that Annie was on camp on that day and could offer lots of support and lots of, she could relate a lot. So yeah, you'll see it in the episode. So
as women footballers, you're already a step behind everybody else in the world of football because you're women. So being a woman and also having additional things that make it more difficult for you to be a footballer, it's like you're a million steps behind like the average guy already. So like kudos, man, because do you know what I mean? Like massive amounts of respect. I wanted to touch on, it must have been so challenging for you guys. Bex, before you said, like, you're going to take some stuff with you as a coach. And if you were to be a full-time coach for a club, let's say Bielsa gets sacked for terrible performances and you're brought in as the Leeds manager, that you would take some that you would take some stuff with you to become the Leeds manager, and it would be about working with the players, understand the players on a one-on-one basis. But the massive difference between being a Leeds manager and what you were doing at St. George's is at the end of 2 weeks, you didn't have to say to the Leeds players, right, you're going home, you're going home, you're going home. Like, there wasn't that additional factor to it. Was there ever a moment for both of you guys where it was really challenging and difficult because you built relationships with these players, but you knew, I might have to say goodbye to you in a couple of weeks?
Now, I would definitely say so, like, because obviously as a coach, you see different things in players than I saw different things in players and Beck saw different things in players. So there might be days where I think, oh, do you know what? She's really stood out for me today. And, the detail's great. And then Bex might say, oh, she's really stood out for me today. And I was like, I can't see it. I just can't see it, kind of thing. So I think over the week before we had to make the decision of who was staying and who was going, or at least just supplying the information to HNE and the commuters, we were quite far off from each other at some points, weren't we?
Yeah, I think so, mate. I think me and you, we had, I wouldn't say disagreements, but we sat down at lunch, didn't we, the day before decision. And on our bit of paper, we had, what we'd done is red, ambers and greens. And it just coincided that when Zoey and I put together our greens, we had bang on 16, didn't we? So we had bang on 16 of different players that we thought brought something different to the table. And that's kind of, if and when we were asked for an opinion or our thoughts on someone, we had that kind of reference point. But it's really hard to make those decisions in context. I'll give you an example. So, in the show, in episode 3, it was maybe like day 3, I was sat over the far side with Rosie and we were talking about Erin. And I'm sat there going, look, Erin's not making completed passes. She's not driving forward with it, et cetera, et cetera. And, when that episode aired, she slid into my WhatsApps and said, you're off my Christmas card list, Bex. So that was nice.
Oh, man.
So it's made up. And, but going into the selection, she was, one of the people that was in, Zoey and I 16. And just because perhaps on one day we see certain things in one type of way, the next day you have to go in with an open mind, because you can't write someone off on one session or one performance. And the beauty of making our decisions, Zoey and I tried to base it on the collective of what we had seen over the whole week. And gave our opinion, as I said, when we were asked by the others, because, at the end of the day, the decisions are the gaffers, Annie and Rach, that's their job, and they made the decisions, and everybody was 100% on board with that. And that weren't easy. The night before, we were all sat at St. George's Park. We had ordered in Domino's pizzas, I think, and there was about 10 of us in a room going through every single player backward and forward. And some people, it was like ping, ping, ping. The decisions and the points. It really wasn't, easy.
But then the additional factor of people bringing you cups of tea and people going on midnight walks, you'd also built relationships with these players. Some of them, which is totally fine, by the way. Some of them you might not know as well. They were off with their earphones in, but that's just their way of coping, and they're very personal people. Some of them might have been in your faces a lot, and you were really built up a rapport with that person. So is that an additional factor?
Yeah, and something. So we've done. I'm sure you're the same. So I've done loads of trials in football. So we've moved away from telling people to their face now in football. We've moved away into all of these different strategies for making those processes the least stressful, the most kind, the most supportive. You know, at Watford now, you can be told before you even go to your review. So there's loads of mechanisms in place, and I think if in part you can survive that yes or no decision on telly just being read out. Like I remember sat there on the bleachers with you, my stomach was churning. It just was so uneasy watching those girls be left for that decision. But it's TV, and that's what Zoe and I had to understand, that everybody had signed up to a TV show. They had signed up and understood what the process was going to be for this selection, and in TV, you know, like there are certain parts of the drama that, you know, that sell and that draw people in, and the cliffhanger aspect. So, you know, we had to learn very quickly how to survive and navigate that kind of world as well, because you're almost creating a bit of chaos, and then our job was to diffuse the bit of chaos after.
That's so true. It's intentional. Like they're not going, and the next person to leave the Big Brother house is... It's like that is a purposeful thing to make everybody shit themselves. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So that was very new, really, really new. And that's where it goes back to the context of TV. And it was emotional. I think I probably felt more emotional at the end of the 2 weeks than the cut per se, just because at that point we had all bonded. Yeah. And you know, it was, and I know everyone feels the same, but you know, the 2 days after the experience was a real come down, a real emotional come down, and it was, and a bit of an energy sapper. Do you know, I miss the people now. Do you know, we've got our own WhatsApp group now, and we chat in there, and still keep in contact with some members of the crew. And
it sounds like it was an absolutely amazing experience overall. I'm not sure how I feel about the long days that you did, but other than that, it sounds like it was an amazing experience. And actually, guys, for anyone that hasn't watched it, it's actually not over yet. So tonight is episode 5, and next week is the final episode 6, where I guess we'll find out the conclusion, which Bex and Zoe, you've done really well at not telling me any spoilers. I was kind of hoping they'd slip out and I'd be able to take them with me and throw them out there into the ether for the Women's Soccer Show fans. Before I let you guys go, I had one more question. It was just about being experienced coaches and being in this male-dominated world. And I know that we're obviously running out of time. I just wanted to know if you've got any advice you could quickly give to anyone who might be out there that wants to follow in your footsteps as women, and how they can end up coaching the best future talent in football.
I think if you've got a passion for coaching, whether it be in the female game or on the male game, at the end of the day, it's coaching football. Don't put a label on it. Go out there and just do it. If you have got a passion for it, then the road can take you anywhere. I started in a local grassroots club where I am. I ended up at a WSL club, championship club, and I'm on my A license journey right now. So I think, you know, just follow your passion. If football's your passion, just follow it.
Thanks, Zoe. Bex, anything you can add?
For me, I think the biggest one is be yourself, be authentic, and be okay in your own skin. The road ahead will be difficult. It will have its bumps. It will be at times you might be on a real high, and at times you might be on a real low. And I just think anticipate that and develop a supportive network around you with your family and people you trust to help you in those low moments. And I guess for me, I would just kind of call to action and encourage every woman in the game, every female in the game, let's be better at lifting each other up.
100%.
So let you know, like me and Zoe now are friends, and you know, talking to each other about whatever it might be. How would you do this session? What do you think here? What do you think? And I just think, look, as women in the game, whether we want to work in the men's game, the boys' academies, the RTCs, whatever it is, let's just be better at being there for each other, opening the door for each other, and having that mindset of supporting each other on our journeys.
Thank you so much to Bex and Zoe for joining me. 2 coaches from The Ultimate Goal. Go check it out on BT. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much for having us, Helen. Absolutely loved it.
So we are breaking up for Christmas. We will be back early January with a bumper pack show because we've got a lot of catching up to do. We'll be covering the whole of December. We'll still be over on Patreon, patreon.com/The Woso Show for anyone that wants their weekly Woso Show kick. Thank you so much, guys. Lots of love.